you need to think about your niche, or your niche if you like the French pronunciation. Potato, potato. Just don't call it Nietzsche. Is there a perfect video length for YouTube? Kinda. You might be surprised, it's not as straightforward as you think. I'll tell you, out in the wild, I've had a lot of clear-cut answers shouted at me, and I'll tell you, these answers are contradicting each other. So in today's video, I'll get into it and we can demystify it and make some sense of it so you can make the best decisions about how long your videos should be on YouTube. Okay, so let's get one thing straight. There's this idea that there's one universal idea length on YouTube that is the best. No. Myth busted. Myth gone. Girl, no, that is not how it works. You know those one-size-fits-all garments, or nowadays they're saying one size fits most because we are onto them? Yeah, no. So the algorithm is a computer, right? It's a big learning model, a big bunch of heuristics and experiences that have been churned into a grinder to be this mathematical robot. It's a little opaque, or a lot opaque. Even the designers don't necessarily understand exactly how the algorithm works because the algorithm is making some strange leaps of logic that bring it to the math it wants, that bring it to the outcome it wants, which is more advertising dollars, which thankfully they split with us, once you're monetized at least. But here's the thing about the algorithm, it's not just some faceless robot. I mean, even though it kind of is, it's a simulation for the audience. It's at least based on human behavior and human feedback. So if you talk to a bunch of human beings about their viewing patterns, or better yet, if you look at what human beings are watching and how long, you will see all sorts of different behaviors. There are some people that never watch shorts. Yeah, I know. And there are people that sometimes watch shorts and sometimes watch long form videos. And I've even found that people will disagree on when something becomes a short and when it becomes a long form, because there are certain lengths, right, that make sense. So something that's classically, under a minute is a short, but there's some people that don't watch shorts that are over 10 or 15 seconds. And if you're looking on the long form side, something that's a half an hour long is definitely long form. Now, technically speaking, 1 minute to 30 minutes is all long form, but there are some people that don't consider those to be long videos. There's some people that think of 5 minutes as a regular video, even though it is classically, technically long form. So people's perception of how long a video is can differ. And I have found that even with the same viewer, that they will technically watch videos that are long if it is within a certain niche. So, for example, I have a friend who only watches shorts, but she puts on YouTube for her cats when she leaves. There are all these different channels that have hours of birds playing. They're basically cameras trained at bird feeders. There'll be like birds playing and that sort of thing, and her cats will sit there and watch it. So when she's leaving to go somewhere, she puts it on and she will look for 2, 4, 8-hour streams so that it'll play while she's gone. In addition, there are people that do the whole sleep tube thing, where they put on YouTube to sleep. I mean, here's the thing. My family has actually done this quite a bunch with the vintage Bob Ross painting episodes on YouTube. Put it on and put the sleep timer on the TV for, we usually use an hour, I think. I don't know. My husband, he's the one that controls it. But he'll put it on for an hour or something. We will fall asleep listening to Bob Ross, and then the TV will put itself to sleep after we're asleep. Hopefully, unless, a lot of times I'm up reading, so I'm up past the sleep timer. I'm like that.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
I also used to kind of be somebody who never watched shorts, and frankly, I don't watch a lot of them, but I do occasionally watch them if a friend sends it to me, and it has to be the right friend though, because I have some friends who send me garbage that I don't want to watch. They just send people stuff all the time. They have no sense of what people actually watch. And then I have friends who are really thoughtful, who will find things that are very targeted towards me. I will watch those, and I will watch shorts for research. Like if I'm researching a video, especially if I'm researching about shorts, I will watch for that. And occasionally I'm served them, and every now and then, even though I'm not really a shorts person, if it's compelling enough, I will watch it. And there have been times where shorts have led into me watching long form. It's very, very rare, but it happens just enough that I could say I'm never shorts as a viewer, but every now and then, I am definitely more of a long form viewer. I like deep dives. I like longer videos. I don't like things to necessarily be long for the sake of long, although I'll tell you, one thing that I really like I've gotten into is these long podcasts that aren't primarily visual. They usually have some retention editing with multicam or B-roll, but it's usually pretty light, more just to break it up for the YouTube audience. They're more just leaning into their audio, and I love those for when I'm like doing chores around the house or I'm on a walk or something, and I can put them on and I don't need to look at what I'm doing just to kind of have the company and the sound. I totally will do that. Basically, when YouTube is doing algorithmic stuff, they're prioritizing viewer satisfaction, which can mean different things, right? Different contexts. It's less about the raw duration. I mean, other than watch hours, right? Trying to get your first 4,000 watch hours. It's a lot easier with longer videos. Now, there are two types of watch time retention metrics that you should look for in your YouTube Studio Analytics. One is called average view duration and one is called average view percentage. AVD, average view duration, is how long did the average viewer watch, and it's expressed in minutes and seconds, maybe hours if you're long enough. I haven't had that. So what's interesting is that that's a lot different than AVP, which is the percentage. That is what percentage of your video do viewers watch. So AVD is really important to the point where it's a lot more important than AVP. A lot of people really think about the percentage, but there's a relationship here. Obviously, both being high is good, but let's say you have a video that's 10 minutes long and you manage to make people watch 4 minutes. That's a 40% average view percentage. That is really pretty good. You know, some people say you need 50% to go viral. That is not true. It actually scales as the video gets longer. So my most popular video on my first channel, my other channel, Our Moving Castle, is one about the 2 weeks we stayed at Walt Disney World. And that video is like half an hour long. And the average view duration is, well, let's take a look, shall we? I'm pretty sure when it started scaling, it was over 7 minutes. What is it at now? Yeah, it still is. So this video is 33 minutes and 40 seconds long. The average view duration, even now, after all this time, after it's been pushed out to lots of people, is 7 minutes and 13 seconds, which that's a long time. However, it's only 21% of the video. And so if that were a 10-minute video, that would be like a 2-minute, 10-second average view duration if the percentage stayed the same. It doesn't. So the longer the video, the more YouTube expects it to drop off and for you to lose people. But just the opportunity to serve more ads to people who actually watch the whole video is worth it to YouTube. And also there's a higher level of satisfaction for a viewer that watches an entire half an hour length video and loves it, as opposed to somebody who watches a short or just a couple of minutes. It's gonna make more of an impression on the viewer if they do actually make it through. It's kind of a high risk, high reward strategy from the YouTube algorithmic perspective. So there are pros and cons to that. So let's talk about long form videos. The shorts debate I've been on different sides of. I've actually posted some other videos about that as well that I will link below. But if you're talking about longer videos, there are basically 3 categories that I have found when I'm working with YouTube. The first is under 8 minutes. The second is 8 to 15 minutes long. And the third is over 15 minutes long. I'm going to quickly talk about the pros and cons and the ways that you would ideally use them. Okay, so the first are short videos under 8 minutes. I know what you're saying. Some of y'all are like, short? Well, these are short for long form if it's under 8 minutes. The pros of these videos is that they are easier to consume. They have that potentially higher retention rate we were talking about, and they are great for attracting casual viewers to your catalog. Now, the cons here is that they don't qualify for mid-roll ads if you're monetized. So if you're not monetized, you might not know what I'm talking about, but if you qualify for the AdSense program, once you're monetized, YouTube will take the revenue from placing ads on your videos and split it with you. And if you have videos that are too short, these are just placed at the beginning of your videos. If your videos are longer, there's a chance for ads to be in the middle of your videos, so you will make more money on those videos. And 8 minutes is the magic mark. So if you're at 7:59, you cannot qualify for mid-roll ads, and it can make a big difference as far as revenue. Another con to the shorter videos is that you have less time to go into depth. And this can be a real problem for some topics. I'm finding even in the content creator space, to do any justice and to not just retention edit and hypnotize people with flashing graphics and shouting and, you know, the whole posturing that tends to happen a lot in the YouTube strategy space, it takes longer than 8 minutes a lot of times to actually deliver good information. But there's still a place for that. And what this length is ideal for is for tutorials, very focused tutorials, for quick tips, for updates, for teasers. And that tends to be how I use shorter videos. Okay, the next category is the mid-length video, and these are 8 to 15 minutes long. So the upside to this is pretty obvious. It balances depth and monetization. It's a sweet spot for most niches. Really, if you're looking at getting watch hours, making good money on your episodes, going into depth, but not having to have really a hard time producing the content or risking boring people, 8 to 15 minutes works well for a lot of folks. Now, there is a downside. You need to be careful because these can feel like just okay. They can get boring if they're not well paced. If your content naturally would end at 7 minutes and 30 seconds and then you're adding 30 seconds of garbage to get to the mid-roll, that's not going to be great. You probably won't get that many views, honestly. But I tend to find that a lot of my thoughts tend to fall into this category. That tends to be how I structure ideas. So it works very well for me particularly. And this is ideal for a lot of what I teach and more intensive how-tos and discussions of materials or topics. Okay, and that brings me to the last category, which is 15 minutes or longer. The pros here are that you can have much more in-depth content. And because of that, there's a higher potential for watch time. If you're trying to get monetized, that's a big deal. And frankly, it's really great for storytelling or analytical deep dives. So you'll note, I told the story of what happened when we lived at Disney World for 2 weeks. I also have a video on this channel that's about a half an hour long. That's about the time I got fired and what I learned from it. Now, I was able to go really deep and talk about the characters, the people I worked with, and how they acted because I had a half an hour. Okay, so if you know the categories, how do you decide on what to use for your channel? Well, basically, you need to think about your niche, or your niche if you like the French pronunciation. Potato, potato. Just don't call it Nietzsche. Nietzsche or Nietzsche, that's another one. Nietzsche and Nietzsche, you know, anyway, the philosopher. But yeah, is your channel about gaming, entertainment, education? Look at other popular creators within your space and see what they're doing, and that'll be a guide. Because really, you're basing it on audience expectations. And those will usually be demonstrated by what people in your space are doing. Until you get your own feedback, then once you have analytics, you dive into your analytics and you look and you see what works best. I found that I was like, oh boy, this is not working for this. This was a little long-winded. The viewers will tell you when something was long-winded. The retention graphs are so helpful. Use them. And also basing it on the content itself. Some topics are worth taking more time from a viewer perspective, and some, they're just not going to want to listen to it, and that's okay. You'll get a better sense as you post videos and you get that feedback of what's going to resonate with people. Sometimes it's what you care about, sometimes it isn't. And it's kind of part of the skill and experience with doing something like this comes from figuring out where the overlap between what you want to create and what people are actually interested in, where that actually exists and how big it is. It's frustrating though until you figure it out. It can be surprising, but it's also kind of fun. I feel like after having worked online, supporting myself for over 7 years professionally, only recently the last year with video, I did mostly writing and other things before that, but I know myself a lot more as a person because of that. I was a little annoyed at first though and frustrated. I'll be the first to admit that. Always bear in mind that retention and length have that push-pull relationship. If you have a 7-minute retention on a 10-minute video, that's like a 70% retention rate. That's better than a 20-minute video that people only watch 7 minutes of. So it gets a little more forgiving as you scale up, but also bear that in mind, it does matter. And it's also worth considering whether a few short, snappy videos that don't apply for mid-roll, but bring in lots of new viewers will offset the loss of ad revenue. That's something that you can kind of look through and parse through in your analytics. It really is an experiment. You got to get out there and try stuff at the end of the day. I would encourage you to try different lengths and formats and see what happens. First and foremost, look at what the viewers tell you through their behavior and adjust. Research your topic area and see what people are doing, and let all of that inform the best format for your channel. That's the long and the short of it, literally. Anyway, it's been great talking to you as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.